Spurs up, Carolina fans. This is Phil Harris here at the Ruckin Roosters Show, and I am joined with a very, very special guest this evening. His name is Rick Comisky. Rick, how the hell are you?
Man, I'm all hopped up on Mountain Dew.
Love that. Nice hat, by the way. I used to have that exact same hat, but it just got grimy, so I donated it. But I regret giving that thing away because it's such a sharp-looking hat. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Northern Virginia.
Wow. Okay. Leesburg. What area are we talking about here?
Fairfax.
Okay. Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. How did you make your way down to Carolina?
I wanted to go to the #1 sports administration program in the country.
Love that. Excellent.
And after I got there, I found out there is no ranking. So
okay.
The slick talk marketing worked on me, and I might have been financially incentivized to attend also.
Sure. And now you're a Gamecock for life. How about that? So it's
yeah.
It works out. It works out. What is your origin story with rugby? How did you find rugby?
Yeah. So I'm from Fairfax. Went to Lake Braddock High School as a freshman and sophomore, and we had a club rugby team with us in West Springfield.
Okay.
And my freshman year, I didn't make the baseball team, and I saw some cool guys with the cool rugby T-shirts and. Like, hey, what's going on? And yeah, come out to practice on Monday or whatever. And I remember my first day of training was the one where they do I guess 4 groups that they run kind of where they try to avoid each other. Yep. And all the freshmen had to lay down in the path of the runners.
Yep.
And that scared the heck out of me, but I'm still here. So
excellent. Glad you stuck with it for sure. When did you play at Carolina?
I did. I graduated in 2001, and when I was there, by the way, I played 2 years in high school, and I transferred to a school that didn't have rugby. So I get to South Carolina and went to practice 2 or 3 times, and I just remember people couldn't catch the passes, and when you're that age, rugby wasn't my life or anything. I was a fan, but there's so many other things to do.
Yeah.
So I did other things, and then just did rugby, I guess, before and after.
Gotcha. Okay. So what was your major was sports administration. What do you do in the real world nowadays?
I'm a controller for finance and accounting controller work.
Nice. Very good. You were also previously the president of Florida Rugby Union. Let's talk about that a little bit. How did you get involved in rugby administration?
Yeah, got my undergrad and then got an MBA specializing in sports administration, and I've been a rugby fan. Back when you had to do pay-per-view to watch the Rugby World Cup on the weird channels.
Sure.
So 20 years ago, cotton jerseys, or maybe a little bit longer. And you didn't really have the chance to watch rugby on TV, but maybe once or twice a year. But now it's a lot more available.
Yeah.
So I just remember, throughout the years, like, oh, wow, I could really contribute on the administrative side to this. And, this is such a neat sport. Why doesn't everybody else love it? And, I guess things happened, and I just turned out to be living next door to a rugby player in Miami.
Nice.
And he's like, hey, come on and meet the guys. And I just enjoy being around the community and working my way up, I guess.
That's awesome. So, I remember those dark days of rugby was almost never on TV. You had to pay to watch it, like the World Cup and stuff like that, as you're talking about. But nowadays, like it's readily available for a lot of folks out there. Like you turn on Peacock and you can watch USA Rugby. It's in the middle of the night, but because it's over there in Japan, the Pacific Nations Cup. But it's readily available for people. So I feel like we've come a long way, but there's so much more that has to be done to get to where we want to be with rugby in this country. What was your role as president of a state union? How did that work?
Sure. I was one of 9 people on the board, and my role was to sign checks and contracts and lead the meetings.
Okay.
And I kind of thought of myself as kind of like a cheerleader. So I'd go to games around the state and just meet the people, take pictures, make them feel special, and really encourage them when they had successes.
I remember this was last year or the year before, the Jaguares, the Florida Jaguares from, I believe, the Miami area came up and played a lot of the club teams and the feeder clubs for the Free Jacks up there at Fort Quincy where I was at. And Houston brought a very, very strong squad. But they beat everybody and won that championship and did it in a very, very great way to watch rugby, like a very, very entertaining game, a lot of flair. So I was really, really impressed. I had no idea the scale of rugby and how it's growing down there in the state of Florida. I mean, roughly how many clubs are down there in Florida that you administrated over?
So for the Florida Rugby Union, that's universities and older, we had 49 as of 9 days ago. But the Jaguares are the unofficial select side for the high school. And there's 8 high school teams now.
Okay. All right. So growing, Florida, a big state with a huge population. So there's room to grow even further, of course. And hopefully that does take place because youth rugby needs to be a bigger deal than what it is. Obviously, we need folks like yourself being rugby administrators. We need more coaches. We need more referees. We need all of that because we're moving towards, right around the corner is the Men's Rugby World Cup in 31 and the Women's World Cup here in the United States in 33. So what has to happen, in your opinion, at the grassroots level in states before then?
Man, how much time do we have?
We got as much time as you want.
This is just one of those conversations that you have with experienced veteran rugby people, and it's an hour to an hour and a half kind of conversation each time. We just got the Miami Sharks here, although they play all the games in Fort Lauderdale.
Right.
And I don't expect everybody to know the geography of the state, but Miami-Dade County is where the city of Miami is. There's one team, and they are on a barrier island in the corner of the county.
Okay.
Broward County, which is where Fort Lauderdale is, which is 30 to 45 minutes north of Miami. There's 2 high school teams. And these are big cities. Why is there just 1 or 2 teams in the vicinity? So the Sharks, I would hope that they're able to use their connections and resources and maybe put some effort behind starting other teams.
Sure. I mean, that's what it's all about is, clubs at the MLR level, which is the highest level of professional rugby within this country. It's the only level of professional rugby. There's, of course, amateur squads that are very, very good. But in terms of the professional squads, we've got the MLR, which is now down to 11 teams. But Miami is one that can grow the sport in Southern Florida and beyond in the entire state if they embrace that community first aspect, which I hope that they do. And I'm sure that they're working on things about how can we get more people in the stands. Well, one way you can do that is bring rugby to the schools, right? Show kids in that area the game of rugby, have a couple players show up in their kits, right? And get the balls, you pass them around, you invite the kids to the games, and that's how you grow your audience, and that's how you grow the interest of the sport. But of course, teams have to be developed beyond that. We need coaches, we need referees, all of that sort of stuff has to happen all across this country. And it's happening now. I mean, there's a lot of hard work that's taking place, but there's still a lot more to do. So yeah, that's one way that they can definitely get involved is the MLR clubs that are in those areas and the 11 places around this country can be more involved in local rugby and growing the game for sure.
Yeah, Bill, I gotta tell you, I'm friends with the administrators and the staff over at the Sharks, and they are working. They are getting into the schools. They're going to the
Good.
little kids, into the middle school, into the high school.
Yeah.
And of course, they're just, bright guys. They get the biggest monster looking guys to go to these schools.
Right.
So you can imagine, 7 or 8 year old looking up at a monster, who's a very nice person, who's, 6'6" and bench presses 700 pounds. They're physically intimidating.
Yep.
But just what an amazing experience for the kids too.
Absolutely. I know Stan Vandenhoven, who was at the Free Jacks before he went down to Miami. He's taller than me, and I'm not exactly a short person. So there's a picture of me and him hugging, and he's just like, he looks like he's a head taller than I am. So he's like 6'7", 6'8". He is an absolute giant for sure. It's very it's cool for kids to see like big people, right? Like that type of thing. And they're wearing the kits and they're passing the ball around with these big guys. So it all goes to the growth of the game within this country, and that's a huge part of it, is getting inside the schools and showing kids the game of rugby, the great, beautiful game of rugby for sure. And I was down there. This was a couple months ago at this point, where the Sharks actually beat my New England Free Jacks at home there in Fort Lauderdale. It was a great game to watch. Unfortunately, it didn't come out in my favor there with the Free Jacks, but an awesome game, and it was a great way to display the game of rugby because it was close. The underdog won in the last second at the last play of the game pretty much. So very, very cool. Awesome stuff, and hope for the best for the Miami Sharks for sure in the future with all of their aspects down there that they're getting involved in. As we discussed earlier, you are a Carolina Rugby, or just a Carolina alumnus who loves rugby. What's your impressions of the program now? I mean, are you keeping your pulse on the heartbeat of the game?
I guess I try to absorb as much as is presented, so I get the various emails and follow the social media accounts.
Sure.
And I've had a few conversations with John Roberts, and wow.
Yeah, he's really impressive.
Yeah, when I talk to the coaches, the university coaches down here, hey, you guys know what South Carolina's doing? You should really check it out. It's really impressive what their program.
Yeah. 100%. Like it's not rocket science what's taking place, and it's not something that South Carolina invented, but they're really getting people excited about the program. And we're getting people engaged through the newsletter, through the Hall of Fame committee. Like, more eyes on the program is good, and it just helps us move up this mountain, all of us together. And we're inviting people that maybe have lost interest in the past for whatever reason to be more involved, because this thing is just moving up and up. And hopefully down the road here, we're looking at potential national champions in the South Carolina Gamecocks. I don't want to jinx or anything like that, but that's the end goal, is to be a huge program in the Southeast. So it's really, really encouraging to see what John Roberts is doing with this program. And it's cool to see someone like yourself who loves rugby, wasn't involved at, playing for Carolina, but still is, because you're a South Carolina alumnus. I see it in the background there, the pennant that you got. That it's cool that you're, staying involved and staying interested with what's taking place.
And I also want to point out that there's a College World Series baseball. With,
nice.
The back-to-back.
Love that. Yeah. I've got the actual, the hat that you were wearing, the SC baseball logo is actually tattooed on my arm here after they won the back-to-back national championships. I was like, well, if they can do this, I can do anything. It inspired me so much to see those boys do what they did for sure. Let's talk about With You Weekend really quickly here. We've been promoting With You Weekend on the show. So folks, mark your calendars. With You Weekend is set for October the 11th and the 12th. Head over to uscrugby.net/events to book your hotel, check out the weekend schedule, and purchase your tickets to the Saturday social as well. Will you be making your way up for you to come up to With You Weekend?
I do not have plans to be there at this time.
Okay, we would love to have you, of course. I was telling everybody on the last episode, it's really, really cool to see all these older guys get around guys that they played with, and that they were in college with at the same time. Just the spark is reignited in their eyes. It's just like a really, really joyous thing to see all of these guys come together, and also at the same time interacting with these young players. that are a part of the team right now, these stars that in the making for Carolina Rugby. Really, really cool. So I highly recommend everybody check out With You Weekend this year and any year that it's happening. Final question here for you, Rick. I appreciate your time. You've been fantastic. If there's a high school or transfer student or even an international student, because we've got quite a few international students on the roster nowadays where we're recruiting outside of the country, what would you say to them about playing at Carolina as a Gamecock rugby player? What would you say?
I'm probably not the best qualified to answer that.
Sure, but yeah, you love the game, you love the Gamecocks. What would you say?
I have to suppose that Columbia, South Carolina is dramatically different than any place that, if you're from another country, dramatically different and
Sure.
A very unique experience. Certainly, I remember living in the honeycombs back then.
Oh, yeah.
I understand no longer exist.
That's right. They're no longer there.
On my floor, about half of the students were from other countries. So how else do you get friends from Singapore and Germany and Bolivia?
Right. Yeah.
What a neat experience. Of course, if you're on the rugby team, you'll have international friends kind of automatically.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a big university with a strong athletic tradition, and it's going to set you up with great friends for the rest of your life.
I mean, that's a great way to describe it for sure. It's a great university. They take their sports very seriously at Carolina, and you're going to have at least 14 really good friends, right? Like immediately you're going to bond with those guys on the rugby team. And yeah, you're going to feel like it's home. The hashtag welcome home is not just a bit that the Carolina Athletics uses. It really is a home there in Columbia, South Carolina for people that are not from there and decide to go to Carolina for sure. All right. We've got 2 words that we say on every single video at the end. It is Spurs Up. If you don't mind saying it with me, we're going to count down 3, 2, 1. Spurs Up.
Spurs Up.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
Great. Thanks, Bill.